What happens when the only person who insists on honest numbers is framed by the man who signs her checks? If your reputation, your rent, your future were balanced on a single spreadsheet, would you fight the boss who hid the books or survive in silence? Payroll hit at dawn. The numbers didn't add up. A consulting charge swallowed 3 salaries whole. I flagged it, and my boss smiled without blinking. By noon, whispers said I'd doctored receipts. HR printed policies like verdicts, not guidance. My name, Maya Cole, hung on every hallway like a warning. Then Victor Hale called a meeting, with security waiting outside. Stay with me, because what comes next will test everything we think we know. Halcyon Freight sat behind a chain-link fence off I-271, where trucks coughed diesel and time cards clicked like metronomes. Victor Hale ran it with a handshake smile and iron deadlines. I kept the ledgers immaculate: payroll, vendor payables, and fuel taxes. The first spark came when an $84,700 consulting retainer appeared against a shell vendor, Huron Ridge Partners, with no W-9, no contract, and no deliverables. I asked finance for backup. Silence answered, then glances hardened. Denise Park from HR slid policies across my desk like blades: confidentiality, chain of command, no external disclosures. In the break room, Jerome Tate, our dispatcher, warned me softly, "Victor doesn't like questions, only results." By midweek, the story twisted. Someone said I'd overridden approval queues. My screen lockout started, one system at a time. When I met Victor's eyes through the glass, his gaze didn't blink, it measured what I might do next. The freight margins kept shrinking while consulting swelled. Cash flow was tight, yet a brand new SUV gleamed in Victor's reserved spot. Vendor remittances stalled. A tire supplier left a voicemail threatening small claims court. I traced 2 transfers: operations to retainer, retainer to an external account ending 3172. The memo read Q4 strategy. No attachments. No board approval minutes. When I brought a printed reconciliation to finance, the controller steadied a stapler instead of the page. Victor called me in. He stood beside a framed photograph of donated scholarships and read from a prepared statement. Irregularities have been traced to Ms. Cole's workstation. Pending investigation, you're suspended with pay. Security collected my badge as Denise looked everywhere but my face. In the lobby, Jerome whispered, "Maya, keep every personal copy." The elevator doors mirrored me, small, furious, and already being rewritten by a rumor I didn't author. At home, I mapped transactions on my kitchen wall: blue for vendor invoices, red for internal transfers, green for approvals. Patterns emerged like tire tracks across fresh snow, amounts split below Victor's discretionary limit, repeated every second Friday, identical memos. I drafted a whistleblower report to the state AG's office, then hesitated. If I was wrong, I'd torch my life. My phone vibrates once, twice, loud in the quiet. And then, the knock at the door froze every breath. On my welcome mat stood Rosa Delgado, special agent with the state's Financial Crimes Unit, compact, calm, clearly 10 steps ahead. "Off the record," she said, "your employer's fuel tax filings flagged anomalies." She didn't ask where the wall of notes came from, she just started reading. "You kept copies?" I nodded. "Good," she said, "because whoever's hiding the books thinks the books are all there is." The shape of a plan lifted the air. Rosa taught me the hinge points: approvals, delegated authority, and data that never hits the ledger: dispatch text logs, fuel card GPS pings, DOT scale receipts. We found fuel charges in Toledo while those trucks cleared a way station near Youngstown. False routes meant siphoned cash. She showed me how real invoices speak: vendor domain signatures, contract numbers, and insurance clauses. Huron Ridge had none. "Shell," Rosa said. "But we need his fingerprints." Jerome agreed to help. He'd save dispatch screenshots whenever routes changed without notice. We matched reroutes to consulting payouts, each detour shaved hours, each payout arrived within 48 hours. Rosa requested bank subpoenas. I mapped Victor's travel to conference photos and a realtor's Instagram, a lake property tagged #Huron Ridge, Ontario. The shell's name wasn't subtle, it was smug. He assumes fear keeps everyone blind, Rosa said. Let's teach his numbers to speak. Denise emailed me at 6 a.m. Administrative review continues. Cooperate if contacted. A copied attorney's signature block glared like a badge. Victor posted a staff memo. Integrity is our core value. Any breaches will be prosecuted. Meanwhile, a past controller, Nolan Briggs, answered my LinkedIn message. He resigned last year after philosophical differences. On a phone call, his voice shook. Watch for double approvals that aren't. The system logs the approver, but not who staged it. Rosa's tech pulled audit logs. Approvals appeared from vHale, timestamp 2:11 a.m., IP originating from a VPN endpoint. We compared keyboard latency patterns. Victor typed fast. The log cadence was pasted batch entries. Macro, Rosa said. Automated. Someone built a script to push under-threshold approvals. Jerome quietly recorded supervisors directing him to bypass usual hubs. Victor announced a company-wide cleanup as if he'd discovered my alleged mess. Control tightened. Fear thickened. Rosa filed a preservation order. The bank froze movement on account 3172. Denise scheduled a hearing, quoting the handbook's honesty clause to justify termination. I carried in a binder dispatch prints, GPS pings, fuel receipts, and 2 pages from the very handbook about conflicts of interest and undisclosed related party transactions. I slid them forward. Huron Ridge Partners, I said, is managed by Victor's brother. Eyes lifted. Denise's pen stalled. The rule he cast on her was now aimed squarely at him. Victor laughed, smooth as varnish. Coincidence in naming. We engage independent consultants for strategic advice. Rosa entered, credentials steady, and requested to join. We're past coincidences, she said. She laid out bank traces, retainer funds to a title company, then to a lakeside deed under Hale Enterprises. Victor's smile thinned. He pivoted to outrage. Maya breached confidentiality, but Rosa's warrant slid across the table with a leathery whisper that stopped his next sentence cold. The company attorney asked for a recess. Victor refused. Rosa presented the approval macro evidence, packets injected at 2:11 a.m., VPN records tied to the CEO's laptop serial. She didn't overplay it. She let silence bloom and made the room listen to the hum of the air vent. Then she handed Denise a copy of the conflict of interest policy, Victor's signature at the bottom, dated the week he created Huron Ridge. The handbook became a mirror. Under pressure, Victor's story splintered, advisory retainer, then bridge account, then temporary routing. Jerome's dispatch reroute screenshots linked directly to detours that deprived drivers of overtime while padding consulting ROI. I remembered payday faces, tired men and women trusting the math because math ought to be neutral. Victor leaned on indignation, an old crutch. He told Denise to proceed with my termination to protect the company. Rosa simply asked, protected from what, numbers or sunlight? Rosa expanded the circle. The controller was brought in, cheeks pale, hands clasped. He admitted a directive to reduce payable aging optics before lender reviews. By any means? Rosa asked. The controller nodded, whispering, we thought it was temporary. Denise, red-eyed, realized policy could no longer be weaponized downward while blunt to the top. She ordered IT to mirror servers for forensic imaging. Victor barked about overreach. The room, finally, stopped echoing him. A subpoena landed at the bank. Wire confirmations proved retainer money paid lake renovations and that SUV's down payment. Rosa's analyst found something uglier: vendor credits owed to a local garage never issued, their owner near bankruptcy after floating parts on faith. I asked to call them. "You might need that voice later," Rosa said. We put the garage owner on speaker. When he described pawning his wedding band to cover payroll, the table quieted. We revisited invoices everyone had ignored because they looked ordinary. That's where abusers hide, inside the ordinary. A faint discrepancy appeared in the invoice fonts. A lowercase l looked like a numeral 1. Template forgery. Ledger entries matched, but the underlying PDF metadata tagged a different author, Victor's assistant's workstation. Combine that with the VPN macro, and the shell. The facade buckled, groaning like a loaded trailer finally braking on black ice. But hidden in plain sight was the truth no one wanted to see. Rosa coordinated with the AG. Agents entered Halcyon's lobby at 9:03 a.m., polite and unhurried. Employees watched in folded armed silence, union strong. In the conference room, Victor stood tall until they asked for his laptop. He joked about overzealous governments, then refused to unlock. Counsel whispered, he relented. As they bagged the machine, Jerome sent one more dispatch screenshot, a midnight reroute Victor ordered personally. The screen's clock glowed like a witness that never sleeps. Forensic imaging unveiled the Macros origin script, comments labeled "Keep less than 100K." An email draft from Victor to his brother boasted, "Numbers sing when you teach them the melody." Photos of the lake house showed a wall of framed charity plaques, generosity paid for with other people's overtime. Rosa's team compiled a timeline from first shell payment to last SUV installment. Denise rescinded my suspension and placed Victor on leave pending outcome. The building exhaled. A full staff meeting. Folding chairs, coffee urns, hope and anger mixed like diesel and rain. Rosa presented, crisp and factual. She called the garage owner forward. He explained what unpaid credits cost him. Then Rosa displayed the handbook clause about conflicts, Victor's signature enlarged on the projector. The macro logs. The shell filings. The lake deed. And in that instant, the room fell silent, every eye turning to the truth. Victor was escorted out without cuffs, pride still performing, but the performance fell flat. The board, alerted by the lender, accepted his resignation that afternoon. Denise appointed Nolan Briggs as interim controller and reinstated my role with authority to rebuild controls, dual approvals, vendor verification calls, driver overtime restitution reviews. Rosa filed charges for wire fraud and tax evasion. Halcyon opened a hardship fund for affected vendors and drivers. For the first time, payroll felt clean. We called the garage owner again. Halcyon paid the credits plus interest. Drivers received back pay for rerouted overtime. Jerome put up a whiteboard titled "Things That Don't Go Missing Anymore," fuel cards, petty cash, weekends. Denise apologized to me privately and then publicly. I walked past the SUV in the lot, repurchased by the lender, and thought about the quiet ways theft steals dignity. Numbers don't lie. People make them practice. We were done rehearsing. At the lake house hearing, a judge froze the asset and later ordered restitution. I stood by the water, case folders closed, watching the wind erase small ripples until the surface went clear. Justice didn't roar, it settled, steady as a ledger balanced to the penny. The lesson was simple and carved in daylight. When power hides the books, the truth will audit the powerful. If stories like this speak to you, subscribe now. Because here, we uncover truth, deliver justice, and share lessons worth remembering.